Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Salem, and our question tonight comes to us from Aunt Sherm, who asks how the Correllian tradition views the spiritual authenticity of the Vangelo delle Streghe. And in the Correllian tradition, the Vangelo delle Streghe is considered a very important document in terms of what we believe, particularly regarding the creation and manifestation of the universe. Our point of view is that the most important part of the Vangelo is the creation story, and that it must be understood in very symbolic, very existential terms, that it uses very concrete images to convey very existential ideas. And so this part of the Vangelo in particular has very strongly influenced Correllian witchcraft. The publication of the Vangelo over 100 years ago had an immediate and long-lasting effect on ideas about witchcraft in the English-speaking world. And as to its origin, it was published, of course, by Charles Leland, who claimed to have gotten it from a woman by the name of Maddalena Taluti, or Talenti. There's some discrepancy as to how to read the name. She does appear to have been a real woman. There are photographs of her. She is mentioned in a couple of places. I have heard still other versions of the name as well, and there seem to have been a number of different women that he worked with. But Maddalena Taluti is the one to whom the Vangelo is normally attributed. And either she created it, or it actually did represent a very old practice either within her family or within her spiritual lineage. Now, I understand that it probably only represents that particular strain, and that other branches of Stregheria do not necessarily have quite the same ideas. But that seems perfectly natural to me, because if you look in most religions, you will find quite a bit of variation, especially religions of the nature of witchcraft, which has been a persecuted religion. It's natural that there should be some fragmentation, and particularly when they have heterogeneous origins, as witchcraft does. If she created it, she must have been a very well-educated woman, because the Vangelo delle Streghe contains a creation myth, which has elements in common with many other ancient creation myths, ranging from the Upanishads to classical Greek and Roman mythology, which presumably she would not have had access to, though she could have. If she created it, she did a damn good job. The thing that I've always found interesting about the Vangelo, because some people insist that Leland himself created it, although I don't see any reason to think that, particularly in light of the rest of his career, which was quite respectable. But if he did, it's very odd to me that he would have incorporated such deep ideas and not mentioned them, not called attention to them. Because to read his commentary on the Vangelo, the actual depth of the ideas totally escaped the man. The fact that the Vangelo creation story has a strong relationship to creation stories from the Upanishads, the story of Cybele and Attis, the story of Eurynome and Ophion, and various other creation stories, is totally not mentioned anywhere in Leland's work. And so I personally am assuming he didn't see it. But there are other things in the story that are very ancient and very deep, and I find its description of creation to be probably the most profound mythological version that I am familiar with, together with those others that are very similar, and all basically tell the same story. So, in a spiritual sense, we consider it to have a great deal of spiritual authenticity, spiritual authority. Although that isn't to say we necessarily agree with every single thing that's in the Vangelo, and it's also to be borne in mind that the Aradia, which is the book that Leland published, contained more than just the Vangelo. It contained a number of different stories that he had collected from Italian witches, as well as his own commentaries. But for the most part, we regard it as a very important part of Correllian thought. So I hope that answers your question, and until next time, may you blessed be.